118 meters. That's how much sea level has risen since the last ice age ended. Not gradually, not imperceptibly, 118 meters of ocean water covering everything that used to be dry land. Coastlines that were once 200 miles further out. River valleys that are now seafloor. Plains where people lived, built, and left things behind, now sitting under water cold enough and deep enough that recovery requires equipment most governments won't fund. We know this because geologists measured it. The evidence is not disputed. What is disputed is what was on that land before the water covered it. In 1513, an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis compiled a map of the known world. He documented his sources. He wasn't working from imagination. He listed ancient charts, Alexandrian texts, maps carried by Columbus that Columbus himself had used to navigate. The Piri Reis map is famous for one thing that modern cartographers still cannot explain. It shows Antarctica. Not approximately. Accurately. The subglacial coastline of Antarctica, the actual rock beneath the ice, mapped with precision that modern sonar confirmed only in 1958. The ice covering that coastline has been there for at least 6,000 years. Piri Reis compiled his map in 1513. He was working from source charts that predate the ice. Nobody has explained where those source charts came from. The easy answer is that it's just a coincidence. That the shape shown is actually South America drawn in the wrong place. But the bays match. The mountains match. The details match what we found under the ice 500 years later. South America doesn't have those features. Only the hidden coast of Antarctica does. If you want to understand what the world looked like before the ocean covered it, subscribe. Every week I cover forgotten history, buried discoveries, and the evidence that doesn't fit the story we've been told. Now let's talk about what's sitting on the ocean floor right now, and why nobody is going down to look at it. There are 94 underwater archaeological sites officially recorded on the edges of the world's continents. 94. And those are just the ones that made it onto an official list. The number of underwater sites that have been spotted on sonar and satellite scans but never properly investigated is much, much higher. Most of them have never been touched. Off the coast of western India, in a place called the Gulf of Khambhat, something was found in 2001 that should have changed everything. A team of scientists was doing a routine survey of ocean pollution when their equipment picked up something strange on the seafloor. Shapes. Straight lines. Right angles. Organized patterns covering an area bigger than the entire city of Mumbai, all of it sitting 40 meters underwater. The Indian government sent divers down. They brought back wood, pottery, and human teeth. The wood was tested. The results said it was 9,500 years old. That makes it 4,000 years older than the oldest known civilization in that part of the world. It doesn't fit anything we've been taught about when civilization started in that region. The results were published. Scientists talked about it for a while. And then nothing happened. No major dig was approved. No serious investigation followed. The site is still down there, untouched, while people argue about funding. 9,500 years old. 40 meters underwater. That depth matches perfectly with where the sea level was right after the last ice age ended. Whoever built those structures built them on dry land. The ocean came later. Off the southern tip of Japan, there's something called the Yonaguni Monument. A diving instructor found it by accident in 1986. It's enormous. Stone terraces stacked in steps, 50 meters long, sitting 27 meters below the surface. Flat walls. Straight edges. What look like staircases carved into the rock. Channels cut along the top. Based on sea level records, this structure was above water about 10,000 years ago. The official explanation from mainstream science is that it's natural. Just rock shaped by water currents over thousands of years. That explanation requires you to believe that ocean currents carve flat walls, right angles, and staircases, all in the same place, while leaving the natural rock nearby completely untouched. Water doesn't do that. Water rounds things off. It doesn't build staircases. What builds staircases is people. But here's where it gets really strange. The maps already showed this. A French geographer named Boich drew a map in 1754. It showed Antarctica split into two separate landmasses with water between them. Every other map at the time showed Antarctica as one big continent, because nobody had been there. It was just a guess. But Boich's map was right. When scientists used radar to scan under the Antarctic ice in the 20th century, they found exactly that, two landmasses with a basin of water between them. Bwach said he was working from older maps he couldn't explain. Maps showing what Antarctica looked like before the ice covered it. Nobody asked where those original maps came from. Nobody asked who made them. Nobody asked what kind of people were accurate enough to map an entire hidden continent, while supposedly living in caves. These maps aren't hidden. They sit in museums and libraries in Istanbul, Paris, and Oxford. Anyone can look at them. The problem is what they show, coastlines that match geological features we only discovered with modern technology. That's not a small coincidence. That's not a cartographer getting lucky. That's multiple independent maps, drawn in different countries, in different centuries, all accurately showing geography that supposedly nobody knew existed. The only explanation that actually works is that someone knew. Someone had already been there. Someone mapped those coastlines while they were still above water. There's a place called Doggerland that nobody talks about in school. It doesn't exist anymore, which is probably why. But between 10,000 and 6,000 years ago, the area that is now the North Sea between England and the Netherlands was dry land. A huge stretch of land with rivers, forests, and lakes, bigger than the entire United Kingdom. Fishermen have been accidentally pulling up proof of it for over 100 years. Stone tools, animal bones, human remains, all dragged up from the seafloor in fishing nets. Scientists have scanned the floor of the North Sea and mapped out where the old rivers ran, where the hills were, where the coast used to be. They can see it all. And in the middle of what was once Doggerland, the scans show something they describe as structural anomalies. Straight lines, repeated patterns, features that don't match how rivers or geology normally look. The same careful language used in every report where someone finds something they're not supposed to find. No excavation has been approved. The sites stay on the seafloor while the paperwork piles up on someone's desk. Here's the thing that ties all of this together. If sea levels rose 118 meters after the last ice age, and they didn't rise slowly and evenly, they came in sudden surges, big jumps that happened within human lifetimes, then any civilization living near the coast would have watched their world disappear underwater. Not over thousands of years. Over generations. Over lifetimes. A city built on the shore during the Ice Age was sitting under the ocean a few hundred years later. The people who survived would have remembered it. They would have told their children about a world where land stretched further out to sea. Where cities sat where the water is now. Every culture on Earth has a flood story. That's not a coincidence. Ancient India, ancient Mesopotamia, ancient Greece, indigenous cultures across the Americas and the Pacific, all of them carry stories about a great flood that destroyed the world. A civilization lost to the water. A remnant who survived. Scientists call these myths. The seafloor calls them history. The maps recorded what once existed. The stories remembered what was lost. And the ocean floor still holds what's left of it. The last maps that showed cities beneath the ocean were copied from charts nobody can find today. Charts made by people who stood on those coastlines, walked those plains, and built things that are still sitting on the seafloor, waiting. The maps are real. The underwater structures are real. The sea level rise is real. All of it points in the same direction. We have the technology to go look. Sonar. Submarines. Underwater drones. We've mapped the surface of Mars in more detail than we've examined the seafloor 50 meters off our own coastlines. That's a choice, not a limitation. And it tells you something about the questions we've decided not to ask. 118 meters of water stands between us and whatever those maps were copied from. That's not far. Not really. One day, someone will decide it's worth the dive.